ever episode, and I know it's been a long time coming, and don't worry, it's here. It's worth your wait, and I'll make sure that your wait is worth it. So you can find us live on DSTV channel 277 and also on Metro TV Ghana on Facebook. So do well to tune in, share with your friends, tell a friend to tell another friend that finally Living Well Show is on air. When we go and come back, I'll introduce you to our guests and what we are talking about today. Stay tuned. Thank you for staying. Now, today's topic, we are talking about depression. And personally, I am attached to this condition, not because a lot of attention is not given to it, or not because it is a thing that has to do with the mind, but then I just feel like a lot of attention has not been paid to this condition. And so, today we have experts in the house to help us unravel whatever it is to the topic depression. So right after this profile video, I'll introduce you to our guest. So our first guest is Dr. Albert Sedo here. He is a specialist psychiatrist working currently at the psychiatry department of Korle Bu Teaching Hospital. He's also worked at the psychiatry department of Korle Bu since 2013. He started as a senior house officer, then a medical officer, and then senior medical officer. He's also worked partly at the Accra Psychiatric Hospital and the Pantine Hospital. Additionally, he serves as a clinical tutor at the University of Ghana Medical School. His passion is to impact and empower as many people as possible with accurate mental health information and help anyone with mental illness, as well as contribute massively to the global aim of destigmatizing mental health issues. Our next guest is Dr. Samuel Nuama. He is the Vice President of the Public Health Alliance International Ghana. He is a public health physician with diverse expertise in areas such as global health security, health policy, clinical research, and health emergency preparedness. He is a medical practitioner with experience in both public and private practice. He's worked in various facilities such as Korle Bu, the Rich Hospital, and the West African Rescue Association, also known as WARA. He's worked as a research specialist at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine in the US. Currently, he's working as a senior consultant for Dev Global Partners and Dev Africa Development. His passion is to help bring more visibility to pertinent health issues in Ghana and within sub-Saharan Africa. So yes, you've been introduced to our guests, and right here in the studio, they are here with me. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me. Let's dive straight into the conversation. Dr. Sedo here.
Yes.
What is depression?
Okay, so just to make it easy for everybody to understand, depression is a mental state of persistent low mood and loss of interest in previously pleasurable activities that prevents or interferes with you carrying out your daily activities. So the low mood is persistent. It's not just the normal highs and lows, and most likely going to be associated with you loss of interest in things you used to like, and things you used to do easily. So that's what depression is.
But how do you differentiate between just being sad and having a moment? We all have moments as human beings. So how do you differentiate between being sad and being depressed? Are you able to know that, oh, this is depression, this is just me being sad?
So like I said earlier, we all have the highs and lows, which are all normal. It's very, very normal to sometimes feel low, sometimes feel normal and all that. But sadness is like your emotional reaction to an unpleasant news or activity. And it's not too pervasive or too persistent. You can snap out of it. But with depression, the feeling of sadness is quite deeper and it's persistent. And sometimes you may just be feeling sad for no apparent reason. But with sadness, there's most likely a reason why you are feeling sad. And if that thing is turned around, if you failed an exam and now you passed, maybe you had a remarking and you passed, you will celebrate. If you didn't have money and somebody gave you $10,000 or 10,000 Ghana cedis, you will smile, you snap out of the sadness. But with depression, you cannot just snap out of it. The sadness that you feel, the low mood, is very, very persistent and has a lot of other accompanying symptoms and signs as well.
So when you lost a loved one and it takes years for you, let me not say years, it takes longer for you to get over the loss. Say you take 4 years, 5 years to get over the loss. At that point, is it just sadness or you are depressed?
At that point, you are going through what we call pathological grieving.
Okay.
The normal grieving is okay. It's it's an involuntary behavioral or emotional reaction to a loss. It's involuntary, it's okay. Mourning, on the other hand, is voluntary. Bereavement is simply when you lose somebody, something you love or somebody you love, that's bereavement. So if it takes you more than, per our culture, more than 1 year, and you're still thinking about the person, talking about the person, missing the person too much, and everything is centered around the person who is gone, we find that as pathological. That's not what we expect to happen. So that one, you would need help. So that's pathological grieving. But when there is normal grieving process, within 6 to 12 months, you are expected to cry, talk about the person, recap memories that you've shared with the person, do things in the memory of the person. So you notice in our culture, there are a lot of things we do to help you grieve normally, and hopefully within 6 to 12 months, you should be moving on with life. Like the 1 week remembrance or something, families come around, friends come around, loved ones come around to let you know you are not alone in this. And that's one thing that we don't have, we always have to let our friends feel that they are not alone in case they find themselves in any problem. So if it goes beyond the stipulated 6 to 12 months, then you will need help. But even before the stipulated time, some people may be going through the normal grieving, but may be going a little overboard. When the symptoms, there are a lot of, the severity of the symptoms, as we expect, goes above certain threshold. That one too, you might need professional help. In fact, everybody who is going through grieving, best is to see a professional to help you normally through it.
Dr. Nyama, I'll come to you shortly.
Yeah, that's fine.
But Dr. Sedo here, I just want us to be clear with the grieving and the depression.
Yes.
So let me give another example.
Okay.
You get heartbroken, and then you don't want to do the whole love thing again. What is that? Is it also a pathological?
If you get heartbroken, you are losing a loved one. It's your emotional reaction is you want to now become, that's defensive. You don't want to be involved with a love issue again. In that case, it's allowed to feel sad, feel all the emotional reactions to the loss of a loved one. It's okay. But if you keep on a year, 2 years, 3 years, and you just don't want to have anything to do with relationship or anything to do with anyone else, it is not what we expect of you. That is where you need professional help. And of course, once you have the symptoms, and like I said, the low mood has to persist for a specific duration of time, coupled with other symptoms as well, then we can tell whether you have depression or not. So not just because you are sad.
Okay.
The low mood coupled with your loss of interest in previously rewarding or pleasurable activities with lots of other symptoms That is what is going to make us, and at least those symptoms have to last for at least 2 weeks. Then we can say you are depressed. And that could be because you had lost a loved one or you had a broken heart.
Okay. Now, Dr. Nuyama, Dr. Sedo here has expressed, has set the tone, but then I just want to know from you, are there triggers, are there causes, are there things that can just make you depressed?
Okay. Yeah, so I think I would add to what Dr. Sedo here said, but I would want to digress a bit just so that our viewers would know the extent of damage that depression can actually do. I think it's important that we set that tone. We are looking at about 700,000 people worldwide, getting depressed every single year. So you do the extrapolation and you come to Ghana and you'll be talking about 9 people every single day getting depressed. And so this is the extent of the damage that depression can actually do. And I want our viewers to understand why it's important for us to discuss this topic. And then coming to risk factors and triggers of depression, yes, there are triggers. There are things that have been known to be associated or been a risk factor to depression. And then one of such things has to do with gender. Even gender has been shown that females, women, are about twice as more prone to getting depressed as men, just by virtue of you being a woman. Yes, and we can go into that and look at some of the reasons why and some of the theories behind why women would get a lot more depressed than men. But that is one thing that has been noticed. And then the other thing has to do with genetics. Talking about it being heritable. It's been shown that people who come from families where there is depression, as a family history, tend to be at a higher risk of that doesn't mean that you're going to get depressed because you're coming from that family, but that puts you at a higher risk of getting depressed. And then there are other medical conditions that have been associated with depression. I think Dr. Sedo here would throw a lot more light on these things I'm talking about, and some has to do with your thyroid problems. It's been noticed that people who have these thyroid issues tend to be a lot more prone to getting depressed, as compared to others, in the normal population. And then even other medical conditions, stroke has been, strongly associated with depression, and that's just because sometimes when people get stroke, there are certain parts of the brain that, do not get the blood supply that it requires, and sometimes that can tip them off or make them more susceptible to depression. So these are some of the things, and events, life events. As Dr. Sedo here said, it moves from grief, and then if it's not taken care of, it can move to depression. So all of the life events that he talked about can actually also be triggers for depression.
Yeah. Okay. Dr. Sedo here, let me come back to you. Is depression a medical condition or is it a sickness?
Yes, it's a medical condition, just like my senior brother here was going through with you. When you talk about risk factors, something that can make somebody become depressed, he was right on point. We use the biopsychosocial approach. So biologically, he said, it's in your genes. There are chemicals in your brain that regulate your emotions. Two notable among them is serotonin and dopamine. We are all different. No two human beings are the same. Even twins, there are differences. So how you produce the serotonin and dopamine and how it regulates your emotions is different from the other person. So, and then how you react to stresses in the environment and things that happen to you is different from person to person. Just biological. And also genetics. Once it's in your family, you have a higher risk. It's not just depression, that if you're somebody in your family with depression, you're likely to have depression. Any mental disorders at all in your family, you have a higher risk of developing other mental disorders as well.
This is the first time I'm ever hearing that depression can be passed on through genes.
Yes.
So, pardon me, but I'm finding it difficult to understand how, if my mother used to be depressed, I'm going to be depressed. How is her life, my life?
Becoming your life, okay. Just like hypertension or diabetes, it's the same. So, it's not like when your mother has depression, you are predisposed to, or you're going to have depression. No. You just stand a very high risk of also developing depression. But it's not just the genes, it's the genes and the environment interplay. That's what the biopsychosocial. So biologically, there are chemicals in your brain, the genes, predisposition, and then psychosocial things that happen. One of them is adverse life events. Stress, that may be stressful or traumatic. Most of them may be overlooked until it happens later on in life. For example, when children go through physical abuse, sexual abuse, all that may linger on 5, 10 years, 20 years later on. The person may end up developing full-blown depression. Traumatic events, stressful events, such as anything at all, witnessing an accident, going through physical abuse in marriage, in relationship, at the workplace, and all these things can later on affect you. Another thing that can predispose somebody to having depression is very unique to your gender, pregnancy.
I will come to that because I've been trying to differentiate between postpartum depression and just depression in general. But before we come to that, we spoke to the public on their knowledge of depression. Because there are a lot of interesting myths about depression and all that. So let's just go take that vox pop. When we come back, we'll continue.
Well, depression means maybe there are some things you don't have to be bothering yourself, and then you'll be seeing yourself, you're moving about trying to do something, and then your mind is hot, trying to be going out and be doing some things that are not necessary.
Depression, if you ask, I think it's a psychological something that affects the brain. It tends to affect the whole system as well. So where how do I put it? Where how do I say it? So like it's a psychological something that affects the brain and the system as a whole. The effects, let's say, can lead to, let me say, death. It can lead to emotional stress. Let's say people. It can even lead to sometimes physical changes in your system, like you reduce weight, maybe you are not of yourself. So, like a lot of them.
Depression is a mental disorder, right? And there might be a lot of causes, but from what I've heard, a lot of people go through depression when they suffer from severe heartbreaks, right? And also just stress. Stress can also cause depression. That's what I think, Christy.
Yeah, I support her. I think it has to do with the mental state of the person. So whatever the person is going through, sometimes it might be minute for others, but to some people, because of their the strength they have, they can't stand it. So it puts them in the depression mood. So yeah, I feel like it has to do with the person's state of mind or position they find themselves.
Nowadays, you can see how things are in the country. See now, the condition, the economies has become so critical. So everybody, actually, that's all what we just seeking to know. Depression, everybody is down because of living inside. Things are bad for everybody. That's all I know about depression. Just drink water and then go to bed. Nothing else. I don't know whether there is cure for it. As a matter of fact, I'm a layman. I'm not medically sounded for all this. I'm a layman. So all that I know is when you are depressed, you drink water and then go to bed.
Right. Those were interesting views from the public. From what we've heard from Dr. Sedo here and Dr. Nuyama, they are not too far from what we are discussing here in the studio. But then, how do you diagnose? Because most of them were saying when you are sad.
Okay.
So how do you diagnose depression?
Like you rightly said, most of them, I'm actually impressed about the general knowledge of the public, just as you sampled. Sadness, feeling sad, the low mood is a very classical symptom when it comes to depression. So low mood, and that has to be persistent. And of course, second one would be the loss of interest in previously rewarding or pleasurable activities or things. And then there are a lot of other symptoms that comes with it as well. One of them is crying spells, where you're just there for no apparent reason, you just cry because you have a low mood, and you may feel hopeless, helpless, and sometimes the people may feel there will be poor concentration. Most of our patients who have depression, there's going to be poor concentration, forgetfulness. You may lose appetite. You may not be able to sleep well. So the sleep difficulty, particularly, you find it difficult initiating sleep, and you have what we call early awakenings, or it's sometimes interrupted. And during the day, because you've not had enough sleep, you might have daytime somnolence, so you are feeling drowsy during the daytime. But when it's night for you to sleep, you might not be able to sleep well. You might lose weight because you're not eating, and you have a lot of thoughts on your mind as well. And of course, at the point when it's becoming a little more serious, you might begin to feel empty. You might begin to feel worthless. You feel life is not worth living, and then begin to feel what we don't want you to feel, which is you feel like life is not worth living. So suicidal thoughts might come in, where you might wish to take your life, or most of them wish they were dead. So those are some of the symptoms that people who have depression. There is a flip side of it, which is the atypical presentation, where instead of not eating, they overeat. Instead of losing weight, they gain excess weight. So that's the atypical presentation of depression as well. Forgetfulness is also. So all these symptoms, at least 5 of these, classical among them is the low mood, the feeling sad. At least 5 of these, 4, that has to persist for at least 2 weeks. So it's not just a fleeting thing.
So persist for 2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks.
At least 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Without underlying issue like loss of a loved one or anything. It's
Thank
just,
you. Without any medical cause or you using substances or any other thing, then we will diagnose you as having depression. And with that one, there's mild, there's moderate, and then there is severe. For those who have suicidal thoughts, attempts, or psychotic symptoms, straight you are severely depressed. Once you have suicidal ideation or thoughts or attempts and psychotic symptoms. With psychotic symptoms, hearing voices and feeling people are against you and all that, believing in things that are not there, that are not real, seeing things that are not there, that are not real. Already, we classify as severe. Another way to classify as mild, moderate, severe is how it impacts your daily living. If it doesn't impact your daily living that much, you're able to carry out your day, but you have the low mood and the other symptoms, that will be mild. But if it impacts it, but not too much, you're able to push through with some effort, we'll classify that as moderate. But if because of the symptoms, you're not able to go to work, come to work, go to school, you're able to take care of yourself or family, some people in that state will not bath for days, will not eat for days, will not come out. Social isolation, it's a very classical symptom. So the person will tell you, I just don't feel like coming amongst people. If you are severely depressed, you can't be on the stage working. But the thing you need to also know about it is that it can be a hidden illness, where somebody can have all these symptoms, but somehow be able to put up a smiling face in public because of their job requirements or what is expected of them in society. So that is why awareness has to be there for the person to say, I think I might have this condition.
Okay. Dr. Nuyama, I understand that bipolar also has to do with your mood a lot.
Yes.
So at what point do you see this is bipolar or this is depression?
Okay, so when you talk about bipolar disorder, really, and Dr. Sedo here will chip in as well, you're really talking about, bipolar has an aspect of depression. Let me put it simply. When you talk about bipolar, you're talking about the same person experiencing 2 different situations at different times. You have what we call the manic episodes. That is the term we put it, manic episodes. And then we have the depressive episodes. The manic or hypomanic episodes, then we have the depressive episodes. So the 2 together, when you see these 2 together in that one person, then it's not depression you are dealing with. You are dealing with someone with a bipolar disorder. And talking about, the manic episodes, you're talking about symptoms that sometimes are quite opposite to the ones that you might experience in depression.
Okay.
Where depression, you'll be talking about someone who is sleeping a lot. The manic episode, you'll be talking about someone who doesn't even want to sleep, doesn't even require sleep. These are some of the, it gets overly excited and sometimes gets a little bit egoistic. Yes, these are certain, and involving themselves in some high-risk behaviors. These are the manic episodes. And so if you have that person experiencing these symptoms and then at some point switches to the symptoms of depression you're talking about, then we are dealing with someone with a bipolar disorder.
Right. Dr. Sedo, you touch more on that difference between bipolar and depression, but I just want you to break a myth for me.
Okay.
So I've heard that when you are depressed, you feel sick. You run all the tests, but there's nothing showing you are sick. Is it a myth or a fact?
I would say it's a myth because if it is alleged that you run all the tests, you've actually not run all the tests.
Okay.
There's a simple test. It's a psychometric tool called Beck's Depressive Inventory. It's a test. You've just not run that test yet. So that is why you always need a professional help. What test to ask you to do depends on the knowledge of the person involved.
Because, not to cut you short, but because when you are in that state, from what I have heard, you are throwing up, you are running a temperature, maybe you are showing symptoms of malaria. You check for malaria, it's not malaria. You are showing symptoms of something else, they test for, you are just not fine. Is this still a myth or a fact?
If you have fever, high-grade temperature, and you're throwing up, I mean, there's a cause of it.
Okay.
If it is not found yet, doesn't mean you don't have a problem.
Right.
Okay.
Even with malaria, with all apologies to my colleagues, sometimes you may test and there are no malaria parasite, but the person has malaria.
Okay.
So we don't treat the test, we treat the patient based on your symptoms. So it's a myth, I said earlier, because you have not run all the tests. There are tests that you may not, the person you are seeing may not know of.
Yeah.
A simple test like the Beck's Depressive Inventory. If I give you that questionnaire right now and you genuinely, truthfully go through it, there's a scoring system that will tell me whether you are okay, the range is okay for you, mild, moderate, or severe, or extremely severe. So if the person knows about that test and carries out on that person, fine. However, the febrile illness you were describing can coexist with depression.
Okay.
You understand? So yes, it's a myth because the person hasn't done all the tests. I know once we do a few tests, we say, I've done everything, and the doctor says, I'm okay, I don't understand. And then just before you continue, when you do certain tests and it comes out as negative, trust me, it's actually good news. Okay. But most often than not, you want to see something. For example, you go do a CT scan and it comes out and say normal CT scan of the brain. Doctor, so what is wrong with me? But they say it's normal. It's good news because if you find something, it means there's more that has to be done.
What if it's just you not feeling comfortable? So you were just hoping, okay, there's something wrong, then we find a solution.
If you're feeling unwell, it means there's something off, there's something wrong, definitely. And there has to be a cause to that effect. And as to tell you specifically what it is you are going through depends on the expertise of the person you are consulting. That is why awareness creation, like you're helping us do here, is very important. So somebody hears us say that if you are feeling sad, you are crying on your own, mostly persisting more than 2 weeks, and you are feeling low mood, you are forgetful, poor concentration, you feel like life is not worth living, you feel like somebody is against you, all these symptoms, there could be something wrong. And then the person hears me say about Beck's Depressive Inventory. He can go online and go and do his own Beck's. There's information online now. Easily, the person goes like, just a few days ago, I had somebody contact me through social media and he told me, Doc, I think I have this problem. I congratulated him for being very smart. No, everybody knows themselves more than everybody else. So he knew what he was going through, and this has been going for over 15 years. He's been going through this for over 15 years, and he was able to tell himself, I think I have this. And he was right what he was thinking. So if you knew about the symptoms, despite what is expected of you in public, at work, at home, you know what you've been experiencing, so you seek the necessary help. So all the tests hasn't been done yet.
Right, so let's go back to the differences between bipolar and depression.
So my senior brother here said it very well. Bipolar means bipolar, so two poles.
Okay.
So the person experiences, let's say, highs of emotions and lows. The expected one is you should be in the middle. That's what we call what is expected. Typical example is I'm just sitting across you here. You're asking me questions. I won't shout as if you're at the other end. That is what is expected. So when a person goes through the low moments, as we've described, or that's the depressive episode, the highs, we have levels of even the high. There's hypomania and then the mania. Typically, let me just bundle the two of them together. The symptoms, like he was saying, the person has a lot of symptoms of excess energy, overly talkative, pacing up and down, may become aggressive. What might interest you, the person may become a shopaholic. May become overly generous.
This table you are shaking. I don't know.
It has one leg or three legs.
This table you are shaking. A lot of us are sitting on the table. If you shake it too much.
No, you see, we always judge you or assess you based on your pre-morbid states. Not just on what we are saying now. Are you someone who loves to shop? Because that's your hobby, because you can afford. You know, there are certain hobbies you can't afford, so you just put it down down the table.
Yes.
But if you're someone who likes to shop, it makes you feel happy and you can afford it, no worries. But if you're someone who is living a normal life, calm and all that, all of a sudden, out of the blue, you're all over the place. Take, for example, somebody charters a taxi, say, I'm charging for the whole day. Take me everywhere I want to go, and at the end of the day, I'll pay you. The person does that. End of the day says, I don't have money. Do you see that? So, lots of symptoms, overly talkative, pacing up and down, may become easily angered. That's what we call irritability. Easily angered. And then the person may have delusions. Typical amongst them is grandiose delusions, where the person says, let me use just an example. You say you are the daughter of the president of Ghana. No, it's possibly true, because I don't know your genealogy. However, it becomes a delusion if I find out that you are nowhere related to...
Wait, Dr. Sedo here. It's like you are trying to shade with the Christians. Okay. Our father is Jesus.
Yes.
We are not related to Jesus. So are you saying we have issues?
When it comes to religion, faith...
And just to cut in,
yes.
You mentioned Jesus, and that's interesting because with the grandiose delusions, usually a lot of these people actually make references to these, religious, I'll call them religious icons. Jesus, Mohammed, Mahatma Gandhi. He's going to speak more to that.
Because we are generally a religious people, Africans, yes. Ghanaians. So most likely the things that you are likely to believe is going to be in a religious theme. Someone from US wouldn't have similar theme if he's not that religious. He may be thinking about some aliens chasing him, or him being in the outer space and all that. So it's because of our how we are brought up. You understand? So when it comes to religion, and maybe you may go on to say, how about people who profess certain things? We don't take the symptoms in isolation.
Okay.
Again, it's against your pre-morbidity. Pre-morbidity meaning how you used to be before we notice the change. You understand? And again, not just in isolation, how does this particular thing that you're talking about affect other aspects of your life? Okay. Someone who is going through depression, it affects every other aspect. So severely depressed people, poor concentration, so they may not be able to cope well at home. Cooking, he forgets to leave the food on the fire to burn. He may forget to attend a meeting, to even attend an interview of a job, come to work on time, may forget to bath, or may not feel like bathing, may not want to come out amongst friends, may not react appropriately as you know him or her. So that sometimes the best people to actually tell there's a problem are your close confidants. Right. They know you best. Right. So that the bipolar is when both ends, the person may be having both, may feel depressed for some time and then high for some time. At the same time, the person may have mixed of the symptoms. So for you to correctly diagnose depression, as that's what we call unipolar depression, the person needs not to have ever experienced the high emotions, where the person was overly talkative, pacing up and down, overly spending, overly generous, racing thoughts, or easily angered. The person need not to have ever experienced those. Even if the person is right now depressed, all the classical symptoms of depression that we've gone through, and the person has ever 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago ever become overly talkative and all the things that we mentioned earlier, it is not unipolar depression. It's what we call bipolar depression. Okay. So that's where the difference comes in.
Okay. Okay. Well, the conversation is getting really interesting, but then we'll take a short break. When we come back, we'll talk about the long-term effects of depression on the human body. We'll also try to understand the difference between postpartum depression and the depression we are talking about currently. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. for staying. You're still watching the first ever episode of Living Well right here on Metro TV. My name is Ethel Poplampo. Let's go and take our fitness segment. When we come back, we'll try to link how depression can be solved or managed through exercising. Stay tuned.
Front, go. So let's 2, 3. You want to see you, so let me see you. 4, 5, 6, 5, 6, 7, go. 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 Faster. Go. Faster, better, go. On one side, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, elbow, letter, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, open, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, go, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6, 7, cross, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5, 6, 7, 8, side, better, 2, for your own good, 3 well, please, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8, swing, go, better, go, move, ha, 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 I can't hear the sound, hit, ha, ha, move, ha, 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 finish that, 10 to go, 1, 2, finish that. Let's go, give up. God. Front and back. Go. The other side. Don't swing, down. Go. 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 Ade. I'm enjoying it. Go. Go.
excited. And funny enough, it's the sports department that was struggling to find their grounding. But my producer, Sandra, was there, repping the whole team, and I'm glad she was there. But Dr. Nuyama, let me come back to you.
Sure.
How can exercise help improve your mood when you're depressed?
Okay, first of all, that was a very interesting one to see. And yes, so talking about exercise and depression, they are closely linked. A lot of research has been done, and it's been shown that exercise is a very, very, very significant thing that, has to be a part of a management regimen as far as depression is concerned. And why is that the case? You're talking about depression, which is actually due to usually increased stress levels. That is one thing that you have to know, that usually depressed people usually have high levels of what we call stress hormones in their system. And so what you tend to do is that when you exercise, you get to release some other hormones called endorphins. And these hormones are hormones of excitement, hormones that makes you feel good, hormones that makes you hopeful, hormones that actually brings out all the things that depression would have otherwise, caused. Yeah. And so what it does more or less is to counter all the, effects of depression. And right. This actually helps you manage depression. And the other thing is that depression is also closely related to some of these very common health problems. Right. Talk about stroke, diabetes, thyroid problems. And what does exercise do? Once you get to exercise your body, then you're really protecting yourself, preventing yourself from getting, these diseases. And so, they are very linked. Once you're preventing yourself from getting disease, then you're reducing your risk of also getting depressed. Okay. So they are very linked. That's how very linked they are. Okay. Yeah.
Dr. Sedohia, I'll come to you, but before we come back to you, let's take the foodies joint, one of my favorite segments, because I like food. We'll be right back.
Welcome, my name is Darryl Freeman from Elisa Hotels Northridge in Accra. Today you are on the Living Well Health Show on Metro TV. What we're going to do today, we're going to make a nice healthy salad. We're going to show you all the health benefits so the people that are healthy can try a new thing and the people that aren't healthy can try and get healthy with the new salad. So let's start cooking. Okay, so the first thing to do is make sure you have your mise en place ready. Basically, mise en place is a French word for being prepared. Because we're making salads, we're using a green board. We also have our sanitizer water with our cloths, so if we make a mess, we can wipe down. And I have my mise en place of the salads are in front of me to make the service go a lot quicker and to show how you make your salads. Okay, so on the first here, what we've got is lettuce. Now, lettuce is made up of like, say, 70 or to 80% of water, but still has very good health benefits. Okay, also, we've got some peaches. Okay, now, peaches are also very good for your health. Okay, they help you with your heart, improving of your heart health and other little bits. We have chicken. So we've got some strips of chicken here, which we've cut down with sautéed salt and pepper. A lot of people wouldn't think there's a lot of health benefits from chicken, but it's actually good for your bone health, your appetite control as well, and also your mood, and also for sleeping. Beetroot. We've got some nice beetroot as well. Again, some people like beetroot, some people don't. I love beetroot. So this one, beetroot has been boiled, it's been cooked, it's been chilled, it's been peeled, and then we've chopped it up. This has very good health benefits. This improves your blood flow, lowers blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, eat lots of beetroot. And also it increases exercise performance. So if you are going to start doing healthy living, I would recommend you eat lots of beetroot, and then it'll help you improve your exercise. We've got some cashew nuts. So these are plain raw cashew nuts. They're not roasted, they're not salted or anything like that, because again, if we're going to add lots of salt and that with high blood pressure, it is going to counteract against the beetroot. So with cashew nuts, this is very much low in sugar, also rich in fiber, and also good for your heart as well. Also, what we've got is some nice feta cheese. Feta cheese is very high in calcium, also has minerals for the muscles, in your body and your nervous function. Very, very healthy and good. Then we've got some olives, some black olives and some green olives. Okay, green olives and black olives are very rich in high fats, so which is also good for you. High acid fats, which you need as well. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start preparing the salad. As I mentioned before, we have our green board to stop cross-contamination from other sections. So we're going to start. I have my bowl. I'm going to take my lettuce. Again, because we're using hands on food, always make sure you're wearing your gloves. So we put some lettuce in there. I've got some red onion. Now, red onion as well isn't as harsh as white onion. This red onion is quite sweet. So a little bit of red onion on there. Also, with the red onion, gives a nice bit of colour. Okay, so then also what I've got here is some nice cucumber. So we take some of our chicken. Then we've got our fantastic cooked beetroot, feta cheese, olives, okay, then I'm going to move that to the side. So then what we've got our peaches. So we're just going to prepare our peaches. So we're just going to cut tomato. So here I'm going to take out the seeds and then strip.
How can food improve your mood, or when you are depressed, what role does food play?
Okay, it plays a great role. Before I come to that, I want to just touch on what my brother talked about, exercise. I don't know if you got it, but there's a direct link and an indirect link.
Okay.
The direct link is when you exercise, the endorphins are released. That makes you feel good, makes you be able to do things that you
Welcome, my name is Darryl Freeman from Elisa Hotels Northridge in Accra. Today you are on the Living Well Health Show on Metro TV. What we're going to do today, we're going to make a nice healthy salad. We're going to show you all the health benefits, so the people that are healthy can try a new thing, and the people that
eat when you are in your down moment. Okay, your down moments, we'll talk about that off stage, but then that it becomes your coping mechanism. It could be a good one or a bad one based on what you are eating, what's in a plate. So food, the link is that we are all advised. And you see, advising somebody is not by force. A person can choose to take or not. And truth is, we all know what to do actually. It's the doing it, that's where the problem is. So healthy eating is where I'm sure Chef Darryl will agree with me that vegetables, fruit and vegetables, fish, as opposed to red meat, is what is linked with what is good when it comes to your mood.
I just feel like you came here to talk to me, but it's okay. It's okay.
So it's preferred you choose fish over red meat and the rest. Too much fatty food, not the best. And fruit and vegetables, which most of us may not be too good at. The best is the fruit itself, not the chemicalized juices on the market.
Okay.
The fruit itself. And most of us, we're so busy. Doctor says fruit and vegetables, so just grab any chemicalized drink on the shelf or whatever and start drinking. That is not the same. The chemicals are just too much. So that's what we are trying to avoid. So food, yes, has a healthy food, healthy eating has a positive impact on your mood. So for you, the eating becomes your coping mechanisms. It can be good or bad. If you overdo it, you know what it is.
Yeah.
And you also heard from the symptoms that some people, the atypical ones, they binge eat and then they put on weight. So that's where the link is.
Right, right. It looks like this conversation can go on and on and on and on and on. And so I think the team and I will come back and have a part 2 of the depression topic, because we are clearly running out of time. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming. But Dr. Nneoma, briefly, tell me about Public Health Alliance Ghana.
Oh, okay. Yes, so thank you very much for asking that. So Public Health Alliance International Ghana is a health think tank that was formed for this purpose. Really what Public Health Alliance seeks to do is to bring health information to the doorstep of the general public, just so that we can help make people a lot more aware of some of these very pertinent health problems, and then we can find solutions to it as a people.
Right.
So this is basically what Public Health Alliance International seeks to do.
Right, and they are also collaborating with us for the Living Well show. So thank you very much, Dr. Nuyama.
You're welcome.
For collaborating with us. Thank you everyone for joining me for the first episode of Living Well. My name is Ethel Poplampo. For the purposes of this show, you can call me your resident nurse. So drop your questions in my DMs on social media. We'll be back next week with another interesting topic. See you.